I regret accusing my husband of cheating when he did not. I live with a heavy burden of regret, knowing that I ended my marriage by believing my husband had cheated when he hadn't. Cheating is a hard boundary for me, one I thought I'd never waver on. Having been cheated on before, I swore I'd never forgive someone who betrayed me that way. My husband, Jamie, was no exception. The chaos began with my sister-in-law, Lisa. She was 32, the same age as her best friend, Emma, who had a long, troubled history. Emma had married young at 20 to an abusive man, had 2 children, and finally divorced a decade later. She was in therapy, trying to heal, but her scars were deep. What I didn't know was that she had also harbored feelings for Jamie for years. And Lisa, determined to help her best friend, orchestrated an elaborate plan to bring them together at my expense. Jamie, 29, and I had met 4 years ago and married 2 years later. Our life together was blissful, at least. That's what I thought. But just a few months into our marriage, I overheard Lisa talking on the phone. "She doesn't even suspect a thing," she said, laughing softly. "It's just a matter of time before she finds out about Jamie and his little office romance." My stomach twisted. I wasn't meant to hear that, but Lisa's voice was loud enough that I couldn't ignore it. I stepped into the room, heart pounding, and confronted her. She gasped, her eyes widening in mock shock. "Oh, God. You weren't supposed to hear that," she whispered, her expression crumbling into one of guilt. "I don't want to be the one to tell you, but Jamie is having an affair with a married colleague." I felt like the ground had vanished beneath me. My worst fear, the very thing I swore I'd never tolerate, was happening. Lisa hesitated before speaking again, lowering her voice as if this confession pained her. "I wasn't going to tell you because I thought maybe it was just a mistake, but then I found these." She handed me a folder. Inside were a series of manipulated proofs, photoshopped images of Jamie and his colleague, along with fabricated texts. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "How did you even get these?" She hesitated, then sighed. "A friend of mine works in IT security. He owed me a favor." She looked at me earnestly. "Please don't tell Jamie I told you. It would ruin my relationship with him. Just do what you need to do." Blinded by betrayal and pain, I made the worst decision of my life. When I confronted Jamie with the evidence, he looked stunned. "What the hell is this?" he asked, staring at the photos. "Don't play dumb," I snapped. "I know everything." Jamie's jaw tightened. "You think you know everything, but this isn't real. It's fake. You have to believe me." But I didn't believe him. I had already convinced myself that he was lying. His refusal to confess or apologize only made me angrier. "I'm done, Jamie," I told him, shaking with rage. "I won't be made a fool of." I contacted the colleague's husband, convinced he deserved to know. He was as devastated as I was. In a fit of rage, he filed for divorce as well. And Jamie? He stopped fighting. "If you don't trust me," he said quietly, "then I have nothing left to say." We divorced. Lisa, my supposed support system, was there for me at first. She comforted me, reassured me that I had done the right thing. But then, almost as if overnight, she disappeared from my life completely. She stopped responding to my texts. When I saw her in public, she acted as if we weren't close. Something about it didn't sit right with me. Then there was Emma. Lisa started posting about her constantly, about how she and Jamie were spending time together. I felt a sick sense of unease creep into my gut. Had I been played? I reached out to Mike, Lisa's ex-boyfriend. who was still bitter about their breakup. I told him everything about Lisa's involvement, my suspicions about Jamie's innocence, and how Emma had always been around. Mike's reaction was immediate. "I still have access to Lisa's cloud storage," he admitted grimly. "If there's proof, he'll find it." And he did. The truth was worse than I ever imagined. Lisa and Emma had plotted everything. They had exploited my insecurities, faked evidence, and deliberately torn my marriage apart. The texts, the photos, all fake. Emma had wanted Jamie all along, and Lisa had made it happen. I collapsed under the weight of my mistakes. For 2 weeks, I could barely move. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I had destroyed not only my life, but the lives of Jamie's colleague and her family. All because I trusted Lisa more than I trusted my own husband. I reached out to the colleague's husband, telling him the truth. His anger was volcanic. "I divorced my wife because of this," he raged. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" I had no defense, only shame. I also reached out to the colleague herself. She never responded. I didn't blame her. Then I wrote to Jamie. It took me days to draft the email. I attached all the evidence, the real photos, the unedited versions, the proof of Lisa and Emma's deception. I told him everything. I wasn't asking for forgiveness. I just wanted him to know the truth. I sent it and waited. Days passed. No reply. Then, one night, as I returned home from work, I saw them. Lisa, Emma, and Emma's 2 children standing outside my apartment. Against my better judgment, I let them in. The moment they stepped inside, I knew I had made a mistake. Lisa's face twisted in fury. "You idiot," she hissed. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Emma sat back on my couch, smiling smugly. "Jamie was always going to be mine," she purred. "You just made it easier." Lisa leaned in closer. "You need to call Jamie and Mike right now and tell them you made everything up," she demanded. "Or I will make your life a living hell." A slow, cold realization settled over me. They weren't scared. They weren't sorry. They were angry because they had been exposed. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of them. I didn't call Jamie. I didn't call Mike. I called the police. Lisa and Emma screamed at me, but it was over. A restraining order followed. Jamie eventually responded to my email. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you," he wrote, "but at least now I know the truth." He was engaged to someone else by then. And me? I was left with nothing but regret. I had destroyed my own happiness with my own hands. And the worst part, I would have done everything differently if only I had trusted the man I loved. I tried to stay calm, but their presence was suffocating. The walls of my apartment felt like they were closing in, pressing against me with every second that passed. Lisa's anger wasn't directed at Jamie, at least, not as much as I had expected. Instead, her rage was laser-focused on Mike for uncovering the truth. That told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't remorseful. She wasn't sorry for what she had done. She was just furious that her lies had unraveled so spectacularly. Emma, caught between us, seemed panicked, flitting her gaze between Lisa and me as if searching for an escape. But she didn't get one. Lisa snapped at her repeatedly, telling her to shut up, her voice sharp and venomous. It was clear that their friendship, whatever bond they had, was crumbling right in front of me. But I couldn't focus on them. Not now. Not with my mind spiraling. I couldn't take it anymore. My breathing became shallow. My heart pounded in my chest. and I felt like I was drowning in everything that had happened. I had to get out. Without another word, I turned and walked out of my own apartment, fumbling for my phone. My fingers shook as I dialed Jamie's number. I needed to hear his voice. I needed to see him. I didn't know what I would say, or if I would even get the chance to explain everything the way he deserved. But I knew one thing: I couldn't let things end like this. 15 minutes later, Jamie showed up. I barely had time to process what was happening before Lisa and Emma stormed out, avoiding his gaze like guilty children caught in a lie. They didn't even try to defend themselves. They just left. A text from Jamie popped up on my phone seconds later. "Can I come up? I think we need to talk." I hesitated, but only for a moment. Yes. When he stepped inside, I could see the pain in his eyes before he even said a word. It was the kind of pain that comes from betrayal, from doubt, from knowing that the person you loved didn't trust you when it mattered the most. "I can't believe you thought I was capable of that," he said quietly. His voice was even, but there was an undercurrent of heartbreak beneath his words. "After everything we've been through, after everything we shared, you still believed her over me?" I swallowed hard. "Jamie, I get it," he interrupted, shaking his head. He let out a bitter laugh, but there was no humor in it. "Lisa was your friend. You trusted her. But did you ever stop to think about how that felt for me? How it felt to have the person I love assume the worst about me without even asking?" His words cut deep, deeper than I could have imagined. But I needed to face this. I owed him the truth, my truth, just as much as he deserved to know the real story. I panicked, I admitted. I let my fear get the best of me. "Lisa was like a sister to me, Jamie. I never thought she would lie to me about something like this. And if the roles were reversed, if someone you trusted told you I was cheating, wouldn't you have believed them too?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he just looked at me, as if weighing my words. Finally, he sighed, rubbing a hand over his face. "I don't know," he admitted. "But what I do know is that this hurt. A lot." "I know," I whispered. "And am so sorry." That night, he stayed. Not because everything was suddenly fixed, not because all was forgiven, but because there was still something between us, something worth fighting for. Over the next few days, we talked constantly. We texted throughout the day, we called at night, and FaceTime became our routine again. It wasn't the same as before, but it was something. Jamie was honest about his feelings. He still loved me, but that love was tangled with hurt, betrayal, and doubt. He wasn't just wounded by Lisa and Emma's deception. He was hurt by mine too. "I don't know if I can get past this," he admitted one night, his voice soft but heavy. "I want to, but I don't know how." I didn't have the answer, but I was willing to try. Meanwhile, everything else was falling apart around us. Jamie met with his colleague and her husband, personally apologizing for everything they had been dragged into. Fortunately, they accepted his apology, and their marriage, after a lot of conversations and painful honesty, was back on track. Mike, on the other hand, was done. He broke up with Lisa without hesitation, and from what I heard, their relationship was beyond repair. Lisa and Emma's friendship also disintegrated. Lisa blamed Emma for everything, accusing her of being the reason she got caught. Emma, in turn, tried to push all the blame onto Lisa. They were at each other's throats, but honestly, I didn't care anymore. Both of them blocked me on social media. That was probably for the best. But amidst all the chaos, the biggest question remained. What about Jamie and me? Jamie hadn't canceled the divorce process yet. And the truth was, I didn't blame him. I've turned your world upside down, I told him one evening. Twice, in such a short time. He didn't deny it, but he didn't walk away either. I just don't know what to do, he admitted. I suggested marriage counseling. Jamie had brought it up before our breakup, but back then, I refused. I thought infidelity couldn't be fixed. I thought betrayal was the end of the road. Now I realized how much I had changed, how much I was willing to fight for us. If you give me the chance, I told him, I'll prove to you every single day that I love you, that I trust you, and that I won't let something like this happen again. He was quiet for a long time. Then, finally, he nodded. Well, see, he said, it wasn't a promise. It wasn't a guarantee. But it was something. And for now, that was enough. Because no matter what happens, whether Jamie decides to forgive me or not, I'll carry the lessons of this heartbreak with me forever. I've learned that trust is fragile, that love alone isn't always enough, and that mistakes, even the ones made in fear, can cost more than you ever imagined. But I've also learned that honesty, vulnerability, and effort can make a difference. Maybe not enough to fix everything overnight, but enough to start again. And for now, I'm holding on to that hope. The hope that love, in its purest form, can still find a way to mend what's broken. Only time will tell.